Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I literally cannot remember the last time I uploaded, and I had kind of thought that I would just kind of give up posting on YouTube just because I did really struggle with finding a schedule. But because my main platform is Instagram, which I love, I feel like I don't really get a chance to actually properly chat about books and like do more long form content, which I really like about YouTube, like the chance to actually be able to just kind of ramble a little bit and go more in depth with how I think and feel about things. So I've decided I'm just going to relax and just post when I feel like it, and yeah, it can just be like, I'm not going to put any pressure on it to get subscribers or views or anything like that. I just want to have it as a kind of extra place that my followers can go to if they want that more kind of like chatty style content, and we can kind of discuss stuff over here in more depth than we can on Instagram, where everything's kind of, yeah, limited, like I said. So anyway, without further ado, I'm sat here with my massive hot water bottle because it's freezing. So I am very, very lucky to have been invited to quite a few book events recently by publishers. I got invited to the double day showcase at Penguin, which was really cool, and got to hear an author chat about her debut novel that's coming out this year. Hello, I'm here with the one and the only at Martha Reads. Hello. In the big city, and we are off to a very exciting event. Shall I say what the event is?
Yeah, the Double Day Books showcase.
Double Day Books showcase. So we're going to be chatting books and having a little drink and meeting some other exciting friends.
Yeah, probably snatching a bunch of proofs.
And so I place my.
She is the moment.
She is the main event.
Hi guys.
Hello.
It's a bit silly filming in public, but I just got to Waterloo Station and I'm about to head home. Had such an amazing time at the event last night. I'm really tired because I didn't really sleep very well last night. Like the road outside where our hotel was just really loud. Last night I was up in London at the 4th Estate live event, big showcase of all their upcoming releases, and that event was so cool. Like they had all these authors, amazing authors, just chatting with the journalist about their books, and it was really cool to actually be able to like hear them talk about their kind of writing process and everything. It just adds another layer of like excitement to a release, I find, if you actually like hear the author chat about their work, because they're all so passionate and everything, and it just makes you feel like excited. As part of those events, I also get proof copies of books, which is just amazing. So it means I get sent copies by publishers to review before they're released. And so I thought in today's video I would just go through some of the books I've been sent recently, some that I've been posted by publishers and others that I have picked up at events. I just thought I'd chat a little bit about them and try and share these books because their release dates are coming out soon and you might want to go and pick them up if they sound interesting to you. And yeah, I don't think I've read any of the books that I'm going to be talking about yet, so I won't be able to give you my opinions on them yet, but I'll be able to show you what's coming up and like kind of talk about what the book's about. So first up is one that I was sent a little while ago I thought I'd talk about it because the release date is in February. I still haven't gotten around to reading it, but it sounds so good. It's called How to Kill Men and Get Away with It. I mean, just the title, it just screams out to me. This is a book that I'm definitely going to be interested in reading. He was following me, that guy from the nightclub who wouldn't leave me alone. I hadn't intended to kill him, of course, but I wasn't displeased when I did, and despite the mess I made, I appeared to get away with it. And that's where my addiction started. I'm Kitty Collins. Friend, lover, killer. Don't judge me. Deliciously dark, hilariously twisted. So I think it's like, oh, by the way, don't mind my gammy plaster on this finger. I managed to slice myself with my kitchen knife. I sharpened all my kitchen knives and then managed to slice myself with one of them. Idiot. Anyway, yeah, it's like a darkly humorous book about a basically serial killer woman who kills men. Gotta love it. This was sent to me by HarperCollins, so thank you very much. Next up is one that is coming out in May, which I really want to get to soon because it sounds so good. And it is called The Girls of Summer by Katie Bishop. And this was very kindly sent to me by Penguin. Rachel has been in love with Alistair since she was 17, even though she hasn't seen him for 16 years and she's now married to someone else, even though she was a teenager when they met, even though he is 20 years older than her. She's found it impossible to forget their summer together on a remote, sun-trapped Greek island until now. When Rachel unexpectedly reconnects with a girl she knew back then, she's forced to re-examine her memories of that golden summer and confront the truth about her relationship with Alistair and about her time working for an enigmatic and wealthy man on the island. And when Alistair returns, the pull of the past could prove impossible to resist. A complex and searching exploration of the complicated nature of memory and trauma, power and consent, victimhood and shame, The Girls of Summer is a must-read debut which will set everyone talking in 2023. Lolita is one of my favourite books, very controversial, I know, but I just think it's incredible writing. And I read My Dark Vanessa last year or the year before and loved it. So good. I love explorations of those power dynamic relationships, especially where you have them reflecting on it as they've like grown older and then they're looking back and things that you saw through the child's eyes seem different to you when you've grown up, and abuse that like you might not have recognized as abuse. Yeah, obviously this probably comes with trigger warnings, I'm imagining. Ooh, didn't realise that the writing did that, that's cool. Yeah, I haven't read it, like I say, but I'm assuming due to the subject matter that this will need trigger warnings. So if any subjects of like childhood abuse and trauma and those kinds of paedophilic relationships, if they are triggering for you, then obviously maybe give this one a miss. But if you are interested in those topics, then this sounds amazing. It sounds very much like My Dark Vanessa in the kind of that you've grown up and you're looking back at an abusive relationship that took place when you were a child and like kind of coming to terms with, was this love or was this abuse? Was this like, was I a victim in this, or did I allow this to happen? Those sorts of questions, which I find them so interesting because they're so complex and multi-layered. The kinds of impacts that relationships you have when you're children end up having on your adult life, and you know that's like such a common thing when like kids have been abused that they end up going on to having abusive relationships when they get older, like in their adult relationships. So yeah, I find it fascinating and I'm very excited to read this one. And that is out in May, so not long to wait. Next up is not actually a proof because it's already out and I'm sure you've already heard of it. It's Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. So I actually got sent this very kindly by Alison Barrow, who is, I think she was head of publicity for this book. I met her at the Doubleday showcase that I went to last month and I was chatting to her and she started to tell me all about the book and I just thought it sounded so amazing, and so she said she'd send me a copy, which was so nice of her. I haven't gotten around to reading it yet, but I think it came out like only a couple of months ago maybe. Chemist Elizabeth Elizabeth Zott is not your average woman. In fact, Elizabeth Zott would be the first to point out that there is no such thing. But it's the early 1960s and her all-male team at Hastings Research Institute take a very unscientific view of equality. Except for one, Calvin Evans, the lonely, bright, brilliant, Nobel Prize nominated grudge holder who falls in love with, of all things, her mind. True chemistry results. But like science, life is unpredictable, which is why a few years later, Elizabeth finds herself not only a single mother, but the reluctant star of America's most beloved cooking show, Supper at 6. Elizabeth's unusual approach to cooking, combined 1 tablespoon acetic acid with a pinch of sodium chloride, proves revolutionary. But as her following grows, not everyone is happy because, as it turns out, Elizabeth Zott isn't just teaching women to cook, she's daring them to change the status quo. Meet the unconventional, uncompromising Elizabeth Zott. It's feminist, it's fun, it's set in the 1960s. Such good reviews. I think it's been like a #1 bestseller on lots of different lists. Really unique concept as well, that idea of like her being on a cooking show and influencing women. Very intriguing, so I'm very excited to pick that one up. Next up, we have Talking at Night, which was sent to me by Michael Joseph Books, I think. And it's in this very cool sleeve. And it comes with this fancy bookmark. What a gorgeous proof copy. Will and Rosie meet as teenagers. They're opposites in every way, but over secret walks home and late night phone calls, they become closer, destined to be one another's great love story. Until one day, tragedy strikes and any possibility of them being together shatters. But that tragedy and their history is what will connect them forever. This one sounds really interesting because it's like, kind of sets itself up as like a young lovers kind of situation, like a kind of coming of age romance, and then tragedy strikes. What is that tragedy? I don't know. I'm very intrigued to find out. It says on the front, there's like all these words, and it says texting, aching, loving, knowing, idling, needing, guessing. Sounds like it's kind of like modern, like a modern love story, but with a bit of a tragic twist. Big thank you to Michael Joseph Books for sending me this one, and that is out in July. Next one actually came today. It literally just got posted through my letterbox. Verve Books are an indie publisher. I always like supporting indie publishers, and they always have really interesting books. They brought out Stargazer and a couple of other ones that they've very kindly sent to me that have been really good. And this one is out on the 22nd of June, and it's called Sunburn. It's the early 1990s, and in the Irish village of Crossmore, 15-year-old Lucy feels out of place. Despite her fierce friendships, she's always felt this way, and the conventional path of marriage and motherhood doesn't appeal to her at all. Not even with handsome and doting Martin, her closest childhood friend. Lucy begins to make sense of herself during a long, hot summer when a spark with her school friend Susanna escalates to an all-consuming infatuation and very quickly to a desperate and devastating love. Fearful of rejection from her small conservative community, Lucy begins living a double life, hiding the most honest parts of herself in stolen moments with Susanna. But with the end of school and the opportunity to leave Crossmore looming, Lucy must choose between 2 places, 2 people and 2 futures, each as terrifying as the other. Only one can offer her real happiness. Sounds like it's going to make me cry. So yeah, it sounds like it is a coming of age, adolescent kind of angst and first romance. It's queer, Irish, it's everything. A bit of a summer read. I kind of need to wait until the weather gets a bit warmer to be able to read that. But yeah, once the sun comes out, I will be picking this up, and I'm very, very excited about it. So thank you very much to Verve Books for that one. So the next few are ones that I got from the Doubleday Showcase back in December, and I picked up 3 books. The first one, we actually got to meet the author, and she signed my copy, which was very exciting, and she was so lovely. Yeah, she signed it there for me. She was called Shelley Reid, and this is her debut novel, Go as a River. And how pretty is that proof copy? It's so lovely. We got to hear her talk about this, and it's just made me so excited to start reading it. It's me like Where the Crawdads Sing kind of vibes. Nestled in the foothills of the Alp Mountains and surrounded by sprawling forests, wandering bears and porcupine, the Gunnison River rushes by the tiny town of Isla. For 17-year-old Victoria Nash, the day promises to be as ordinary as the porridge and fried eggs she serves her family for breakfast. But the mysterious drifter who crosses Victoria's path that afternoon will put into motion an unstoppable chain of events. Soon she will be forced to run for the forests, leaving her life and her most precious possession behind. This soaring, compassionate novel is a tale of love, female resilience and becoming. Once you've read it, you'll never forget. It gives me Where the Crawdads Sing kind of energy, because I'm assuming, anyway, I haven't read it yet, but I think it's like the natural world is kind of embedded with the plot line so much. Lyrical prose about like the natural world, and like this is set in like rural Colorado. I just feel like it's going to be so atmospheric, and it would just add like another layer to the story, which already sounds like such a beautiful and emotional story. This one is out on the 9th of March, and I will be reading and reviewing this ASAP so that I can share it with you all and let you know what I think, but I can already tell that I'm gonna love it. Okay, another one I picked up from the showcase is called Bellies by Nicola Dinan. On the 7th of July, this will be coming out. I wore a dress on the night I first met Ming. It begins as your typical boy meets boy. At a party in a university town, Tom meets Ming, confident, witty, and a talented young playwright. Ming is the perfect antidote to Tom's awkward energy. They fall hard for each other, an instant connection. But upon moving to London to start the next chapter of their lives, Ming announces her decision to transition. At once, Tom and Ming are each propelled into an unknowable future. From London to Kuala Lumpur, New York to Cologne, we follow Tom and Ming in the years after graduation through glass offices and artistic endeavours, friendships and heartbreak. But just as they learn what it means to move through life without the other, an unexpected tragedy strikes, throwing them together once more. Tom and Ming must at last confront the vastly different shapes their lives have taken and face an essential question. Is it worth losing a part of yourself to become who you are? I think it explores like gender, sexuality, but also like youth and the complexities and trying to work out like who you are and how you feel about people and everything, how that is mixed in with queerness and gender dysphoria and all of those things. It's like such a unique book. I love books where I get to learn more about like other people's experiences of things and like empathize with them more, because I've read a book, like I read Detransition Baby last year, and it gave me such a like an insight into what life is like for trans women, and it brought out questions that I hadn't even considered before about kind of trans motherhood and grief that comes along with, you know, maybe not being able to have your own biological children and things like this that I hadn't really considered as just a straight cis woman. I was really grateful to that book for kind of opening my eyes to that a bit and being able to kind of sympathise with these women a little bit more, somebody who is privileged enough not to experience those issues. So I feel like this is going to be another one where hopefully I will learn a lot more about different topics within like the gender and sexuality umbrella, but also mixed in with just general identity stuff, I think. Last one I got from the showcase has such a gorgeous cover, and it feels like this is just such a me book. We all know how much I love Japanese literature, and this is by a Japanese author, and it's a 1 million copy bestseller in Japan. It is called Honeybees and Distant Thunder by Riku Onda. Isn't that beautiful? I love those colours. This is out in May, set in a small coastal town just a stone's throw from Tokyo. A prestigious piano competition is underway. Over the course of 2 feverish weeks, 3 students will experience some of the most joyous and painful moments of their lives. Though they don't know it yet, each will profoundly and unpredictably change the others forever. Aya is a piano genius until she ran away from the stage and vanished. Will Makun, tall and talented, bring her back? Or will it be Child of Nature, Jin, a pianist without a piano, who carries the sound of his father's beads wherever he goes? Each of them will break the rules or their fans and push themselves to the brink, but at what cost? And this next bit, this was what makes me really want to read it. It says, tender, cruel, compelling. Oh, I think the words tender and cruel both being used about a book at the same time is just a recipe for like me being intrigued. Tender, cruel, compelling, Honeybees and Distant Thunder is the unflinching story of love, courage and rivalry. Most of all, it shows how three young people reconcile with the highs and lows of what it means to truly be a friend. Love the sound of this one. It sounds really like sensory. I'm really hoping that the writing is kind of quite like visceral, because that's the vibes I'm getting from it. It really like kind of appeals to your senses. But I also love the sound of like struggles with like what it means to be a friend. Very intrigued by this one. So I'll be trying to read that one very, very soon. Okay, so the last few books were, they're in this tote bag that I got from the State Live event that I went to last night. The Virgin Suicides cover on it and a quote on the back, which is so cute. I ended up picking up quite a few books and I didn't really realise that I had done until I left. But I just got really drawn in by when the authors were talking about them. I was like, I need to read that one. I need to read that one. So I have got, I think, about 6 books in here. So I don't know if that was a bit greedy of me. It might have been. So I needed to leave the event slightly early because I needed to catch a train. And the last person I heard talking was the author of this book, Safia Sinclair. I wasn't going to pick this one up just because I don't usually read memoirs, really. I'm much more of a fiction gal. But hearing her talk about it, I was like, gosh, I really, really need to read this because it sounds incredible. And it's about her life and her upbringing as a Jamaican woman in a Rastafari like community, and she said she had a very strict upbringing and like she wasn't allowed to wear certain things, she wasn't allowed to wear makeup, she had to like cover her arms and everything. Very like conservative and male dominant kind of society that she was brought up in. And as she grew older, she started to question this and question why she wasn't allowed to do certain things and the boys were, and blah, blah, blah. And she ended up rebelling and cutting off her dreads, which was like this huge thing because everybody has to have dreads. It's like a rule. She said like her father didn't speak to her for like a year after she did that, and used to say that she was Babylon, which is incarnation of like Western the evils. Her sisters then cut off their dreads, and then her mother cut off her dreads, and so it then became this kind of thing of like, you've brought this energy, this Western like evilness to our home, and it's spread around now. Yeah, so she's been talking about Jamaican womanhood and everything, and her like past traumas and her past experiences through her poetry for years. And she said her father ended up actually going to one of her like poetry readings and listened, and he said, I hear you, and I'm ready to kind of like listen and understand. So hearing her talk about it made me just feel like I really needed to pick up the book, especially the fact that she's a poet, because I feel like her prose is probably going to be really beautiful. I've never read anything about Jamaica or Jamaican like culture, and I'd just be really interested to find out more about it, especially having heard her actually talk about it. The more of this world I had discovered, the more I rejected the cage my father had built for me. I saw it, finally. If I were to ever break free of this life, I had to run. But how would I ever find my way out? How would I know where to begin? Here, in the same hills that had made my father, now sprung the seed of my own rebellion. I'm hugely excited by this one. How to Say Babylon by Safia Sinclair, and that is out in August. Next up, I have this one, and the cover, isn't that such a cool cover? I love it. Friendaholic, Confessions of a Friendship Addict by Elizabeth Day. Friendaholic unpacks the significance and evolution of friendship, from ghosting and frenemies to social media and seismic life events. Sunday Times bestselling author Elizabeth Day asks why there isn't a language that can express the crucial influence of friendship on our world. It's just a book all about friendship, really. And the whole first chapter is about the pandemic, which I also think is quite interesting. I kind of get bored of just reading about like romantic love all the time, so it's quite nice to have some books that are just focused on like friendship love and platonic love, because my friends are like very, very important people to me. So next one I picked up sounds so good, and I think Chaddy said that this is like his favourite book, so that's high praise because he's got excellent taste. This is Wandering Souls by Cecile Pin. It's been reviewed by Ocean Vuong. Anything that he likes, I will like, because he is God to me. One night, not long after the last American troops leave Vietnam, siblings An, Tan and Min flee their village and embark on a perilous boat journey to Hong Kong. Their parents and 4 younger siblings make the crossing in another vessel, but as weeks go by, it becomes clear that only one party has survived the voyage. An, Tan and Min suddenly find themselves alone in the world without family or home. They travel on, navigating refugee camps and resettlement centres until, by a twist of fate, they arrive in Thatcher's Britain. Here they must somehow build new lives with only each other to turn to, but will that be enough in a place that doesn't seem to want them? In this piercing debut, the siblings' faltering journey is deftly interwoven with the voice of their lost younger brother, Dao, following them from a place between the living and the dead, and the records of an unknown researcher intent on gathering together the strands of their story. Extraordinary and inventive, Wandering Souls paints a heart-wrenching portrait of family in unimaginable adversity, while exploring the power of stories to heal generational wounds. I loved Peach Blossom Spring. I can't remember the name of the author, but she sent me a proof of her book and I absolutely adored it. And that was set, they were a Chinese family, I believe. It was kind of like similar in that it was generational and it was a journey of trying to get to safety. They were refugees from the war and everything. I really adored that book. And I love stories where, like Beekeeper of Aleppo as well, where there's some kind of like journey. I find those books so emotional because they are actual like experiences that people went through. And I also think they're so informative for people who see refugees as like migrants just trying to kind of like come over and basically move house. This is actually what the experience is. Like, it is life and death situation, horrific suffering that no human being should have to go through because of war or political unrest or financial issues or anything that causes them danger. Like, that's the thing, is that they are fleeing from literal danger and people see it as they've just decided to hop over and take up some space for no good reason. I think it's so important to show people the awful experiences that some people have to go through. I'm rambling, but I'm really, really excited by this one. It sounds beautiful. And I love that element of like having almost a kind of like ghostly spirit of their brother there, kind of watching over them. That's really beautiful, but like tragic as well. It says on the front, there are the goodbyes and then the fishing out of the bodies. Everything in between is speculation. I think that like just sounds like it's going to be such a sad but beautiful book. So yes, I'm very excited for this one. Coming out in March, I will be reading that ASAP Rocky. The one that I picked up is this very beautiful proof. The Other Side of Mrs. Wood by Lucy Barker. Mrs. Wood is London's most celebrated medium. She's managed to survive decades in the competitive world of contacting the other side and has avoided the dreaded slips that reveals others as frauds, and is still hosting packed-out seances for Victorian high society. Yet, some of her patrons have recently cancelled their appointments. There are reports of American mediums nearly materialising full spirits, and audiences are no longer satisfied with the knocking on tables and candle theatrics of years gone by. And then, at one of Mrs. Wood's routine gatherings, she hears something terrifying, faint but unmistakable: a yawn. Mrs. Wood needs to spice up her brand. She decides to take on Emmy, a young protégé, to join her show. But is Emmy Finch the naive ingenue she seems to be? Or does she pose more of a threat to Mrs. Wood's reign and, more horrifyingly, her reputation than Mrs. Wood could ever have imagined? The author just seemed like really lovely, and she's done so much research into actual seances of the 1900s. She was talking a lot about wanting to showcase like these women because they were so talented and it was such a like massive part of society back then that she kind of wants to celebrate it. And I just think that's so great. And yeah, I'm really excited to read this. It's such a cool cover as well. Like, look at that, the eyes. It is coming out on the 22nd of June. Really disappointed because I didn't get to hear her talk about this book last night because I had to leave. But this sounds so amazing, and it is The List by Yomi Adegoke. What if your perfect life was a perfect lie? From award-winning journalist and best-selling co-author of Slay in Your Lane comes a sensational page-turning debut novel about secrets, lies, and our lives online. Ola Olajide, I want to say, a high-profile journalist at Woman magazine. It's like WOMXXXN, but I'll say Woman. Woman magazine is marrying the love of her life in 1 month's time. Young, beautiful, successful, she and her fiancé Michael are the couple goals of their social networks and seem to have it all. That is until one morning when they both wake up to the same message. Oh my god, have you seen the list? Compulsively page-turning, wildly entertaining and piercing with fearless insight, the list is set to be the most hotly debated debut novel of 2023. So yeah, doesn't that just sound so good? Like, I have no idea what the list is going to be. I'm really intrigued and I just really want to read it. It sounds so cool. I don't really read much that have like many books that like incorporate kind of social media and stuff like that. See, because like they're usually kind of cringy. But this one sounds really interesting and like it might have some kind of like controversial issues that we can kind of discuss. And yeah, I feel like this would be a really good like book club pick if I was gonna start a book club, but I'm not going to because I'm not organised enough to do that. But this would be a good book club pick, I think. Sounds like it's got some interesting like discussable topics in it. So 6th of July, that one is out. Mrs. S by Kay Patrick. So this was another one that I didn't automatically pick it up because I didn't really realise what it was about. And then I sat down to listen to the author's talk and Kay Patrick got up to talk about their book and I was like, I need to read this. They were talking about what kind of book they like set out to write. They were like, I wanted to write a horny lesbian book. That's basically what they ended up with. And so this is like a horny lesbian book set in a girls' boarding school, and it's like kind of gothic, dark academia, but they set it in the summertime so that it's like, it's gothic, but it's the summer, so it's like not really that gothic. Yeah, it's like hot and sweaty in the summer, isn't it? And it's like, as they were saying last night, it's the horniest season of the year. Yeah, when I heard them talking about this, I was just like, I need to go and grab this. And look how cool this proof copy is. I don't know if you can really see. Just to focus. Oh, there we go. It's got like a kind of like a library like style spine, which I just thought was really cool. Powerfully sensual and sublimely stylish, Mrs. S is a tale of queer love that smoulders with the heat of summer. In an elite English boarding school where the girls kiss the marble statue of the famous dead author who used to walk the halls, they admitted that the famous dead author was based on Charlotte Bronte as well. A little bit of inside knowledge there. A young Australian woman arrives to take up the antiquated role of matron. Within this landscape of immense privilege in which the girls can sense the slightest weakness in those around them, she finds herself unsure of her role, her accent, and her body. That is until she meets Mrs. S, the headmaster's wife, a woman who is her polar opposite, assured, sophisticated, a paragon of femininity. Over the course of a long, restless heatwave, the matron finds herself irresistibly drawn ever closer into Mrs. S's world, and their unspoken desire blooms into an illicit affair of electric intensity. But as the summer begins to fade, both women know that a choice must be made. Kay Patrick's portrait of the butch experience is revelatory, exploring the contested terrain of our bodies, our desires, and the constraints society places around both. Mrs. S marks the arrival of a major new literary talent unlike any other. I love the sound of this because it feels like it deals with so many complex topics. It's dealing with privilege and kind of old-fashioned traditions and outdated norms, things like that. But then at the same time, it's dealing with modern, like, complex issues of queerness and desire and all of these things, and like body image, but set in this really antiquated setting. And I think it's like bringing those two polar opposites into a situation and showing the juxtaposition, and it just shows the ridiculousness of so much of like society's old practices and old views. I'm so excited to read this. I think it's going to be amazing, and it was so interesting to hear Kay talk about it. They were such a good talker, like they were such a good speaker, and they were really funny, and I just feel like their writing is going to be so good. And I love that, like, they were talking about the stylistic choice of like the fact that no nobody's got a name in this, like it's just Mrs. S or the girls or whatever, and everybody's anonymous, which I find really interesting. And I love it when an author makes a definite stylistic choice like that. Like, for example, Sally Rooney's choice to not have quotation marks in her books, I find really interesting. And I love it because I think it's like, oh, what are you trying to say with that? Like, that's a definite choice that you've made not to put that in. So why is that? And yeah, I'm just very, very excited to explore this one. And I feel like it's one I'm going to want to keep going back to. Okay, that is all the books. I have so many here. I will show you how many I've got. Okay, that is all the books. I am literally such a lucky gal. Like, all of those books for me, for free, before they even get released. I'm so grateful, like, to anybody who ever sends me books. I'm so pumped that all of these amazing books are coming out this year and that we get to read them. Like, I just love that people share their stories and we get to read them. How great is that? So yeah, let me know which ones you are excited to read, or if you've read them already, or yeah, which ones are on your wish list, which ones sound good. I feel like we've got such a good mix here of different kinds of themes, but each of them sounds like incredible. So yes, thank you very much for watching this video, and yeah, like I say, I will try and post on here a bit more regularly, but I'm not going to put too much pressure on it, just because then I can just relax a little bit and I can just do the odd video here and there chatting about stuff. Let me know in the comments if you have any requests or suggestions for kinds of videos that I can film or whatever. Yeah, give this video a like if you enjoyed it. I would really appreciate it. And make sure you subscribe. I will be sharing more videos on here very soon. I love you guys, and I hope you have a lovely day or afternoon or evening, wherever you are. Yeah. Bye.